Are you planning on starting a garden in the 2023 season, or is your area just suit for a garden this winter? Well, if you're ready to plant a garden this winter, or you want to do one this spring, this video is just for you, so watch to the end, click like and subscribe too. Alright, so before you can start a garden, you of course need to plan out what you're going to plant, because you can't just be aimlessly putting seeds if you don't know what they are into the ground and not knowing how to plant them and how to care for them. So you need to plan them out ahead of time, or else, well, you're going to be ending up in an endless pit of pain and suffering, because you're going to have an awful experience with gardening if you don't do anything about this stuff. So yeah, and also make sure that if you really want to keep the weeds out of your garden, you should use weed blocker, and I'll go on to that in a little bit and more later. Every single plant requires some form of water, regardless of what you think. Every single plant is different. Some plants only require 1 inch of water, while others require 5 inches of water per week. Now, you need to read the seed packet, as it should usually inform you of this, or you could just search it up on the internet, and you should be coming up with the results you need. The correct care is another thing you need. So, if you notice there's a lot of weeds overpowering this plant, it might be time to rip them right out, or get weed blocker right before you plant them. All you have to do is just cut or burn holes into the ground, and you should be good to go as far as that goes, because, well, that's basically how gardening works. Because if there's too many weeds, it's going to kill the plants, so you need to keep them in control. And if you have any unmaintained holes, you need to be constantly ripping these weeds out, like this stuff right here. It's a little easier because it's like the fall season right now, but in the summer that would have been all alive, and it would have been an atrocity to try to actually get those out. Alright, so now we're going to be talking about special needs plants, and what I mean by this is what each type of plant needs. Most of the plants, you can just plant them in the ground and water them, and you should be good to go, but several of them need certain things to survive. So trellises are one of these. So if you notice, when I ever do my garden tours, when my garden used to be alive, there was a lot of this. You'd see me walking through this stuff. There would be plants climbing up and down this stuff. That was because the trellis is able to hold them up. Here, let me show you this dead cucumber right here. So when you look at them, oh, sorry for the background noise too. So when you look at these things, you'll notice, yeah, they have these things here. Let me show you. You'll notice these things right here. These are their attaching things. They'll attach them to the vine, the thing, and they're naturally supposed to be climbing upwards along stuff. That's why you need a trellis to grow stuff like that, including other stuff. So you need to do your research on that. All right, and finally, of course, you need space to grow. But if you are in a very small thing, what you need to do is you need to basically use raised beds, of course, because in the suburbs, you'll often come upon people using raised beds. But out here in the middle of nowhere, we just plant stuff in the ground just because we have a lot more space to plant stuff here. But if I was out in the suburbs, I'd be doing raised beds, only for the stuff that matters. But other stuff that you can do, aside from raised beds, would be stuff like, you know, repurposing stuff. Like maybe you have like an old bag of like dog feed, you could just cut that thing up, clean it out, and fill it with some soil, and you can plant some stuff in that too. Pots everywhere. You could even repurpose pipes in your yard into like strawberry stuff. It's as easy as that. Anyways, there are a lot of stuff you can repurpose in your yard. And anyways, yeah, let's roll this end screen clip real quick. Now here are a couple life hacks that you can use for your garden. So the first one is weed block. Now weed block, what it'll do is it'll keep all the stuff out of the garden that you don't want there. So that way everything can keep growing in its orderly fashion. The only time something will get through is if the hole is not maintained. I've had a 100% succession rate with these, because I haven't had a year when we've been using weed block here that hasn't yet been successful. Cross my fingers, next year will be just as good as this one. Alright, and then we also have other stuff too in this garden that helps us out, like an irrigation system. It's a little bit hard to build, but you know what? They only take about 3 hours of construction, as long as you know what you're doing, which I have several videos on. You can just go to my channel and you can find them right there. But there are several other things too that come into this garden, and I will say I've had a really great success growing stuff too. And if you look at the end, you notice there's basil right near the tomatoes that keeps certain beetles out. I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but I know they are some types of beetles here that enjoy destroying tomatoes, but they hate basil. And if you want to keep deer out, you need to plant oregano, lots of it. Those are just a couple of garden hacks. There's a whole video on my channel where you can check out how to keep how to keep pests out of your garden. 2 of them actually, and the third one will probably be dropping by the end of this weekend. Alright, so if you did enjoy the video, I have a video right for you on the screen. This is the one that YouTube thinks you will enjoy the most. It's right in the middle of the screen, and right below it, you'll see a subscribe button. That's not required, but I would highly recommend to click it.